Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. Today it is another warm day here in Southwest Florida. It is mid-August and actually it's not bad. It's a little cool. There's a cold front coming through. It's a little overcast, thunder off in the distance, so it's actually pretty pleasant today, more because of the wind than from anything else. What I want to do today is talk with you a little bit about vanilla and also memory, and I'll tie them up and we'll see how it goes together. This is one of the vanilla vines that I have in my yard. This is Vanilla pompona. This is not a vine that is, even though it is vanilla genus, it's not a vine that makes seed capsules that are, it makes seed capsules with vanilla, but it's not one of the approved vanilla species. So this is Vanilla pompona. This has very large leaves. It gets huge. It'll get way up in the tree. This is a foxtail palm, and it is the actual vine that this is growing from is planted in the ground behind this tree. I got this this vine maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. Planted it in my front yard on a royal palm, and what happened in the royal palm, it was growing up a little bit, and then the palm fronds fell down, knocked it off, grew up a little bit more, another palm frond fell down, knocked the top off. So I started saying, okay, I need to figure out another place to put this. So I brought it in the backyard, and it seems to be doing better, but it got to this point right here and actually flowered, but it got to this point right here, and then the palm frond in this tree fell down and knocked the top off. And then what happens on this thing, what happens with vanilla is that this is a vine, and they're all, I don't know, you can see it, I'll get a close-up of this, but the roots attach this orchid to the tree as they do with many epiphytic orchids, but the roots attach this vine to this tree, and then it grows up the tree. It can grow up really high. This Vanilla pompona can grow really, really high up in this tree, and I've heard stories about people trying to pollinate their Vanilla pompona, and when they get these long extension ladders up in the tree. Don't recommend that, by the way, but I've had people tell me the stories about how the flowers are way up in the tree. This year it flowered right here, just right down there on this tree, and I was able to make a self-pollination. There's no flowers on it right now. I'll do a pollination video later. It's a little bit different from the rest of orchid pollinations that you do, but again, more on that later. All right, back to this plant. So this plant was moved, the top got knocked off, and then it grew out again. But what happens to the thing, and what's interesting about this is how easy it is. Well, most orchids are really easy to propagate. This orchid is incredibly easy to propagate. So the way that this works, you can actually cut it, here, in a few different places. You can cut along this vine, and there are roots all up and down this vine, and you can place this either in bark or in soil, and the roots will grab, and then you'll get an axillary bud, as what has happened here will grow out of it. All right, so this is growing well, and again, this will grow way up to the top of the tree. Now for commercial, all right, I should back up and say I'm not a vanilla expert, but I was able to attend a University of Florida Vanilla Orchid Symposium where the invited speakers were vanilla experts. And what we're trying to do here in South Florida is introduce orchid as a commercial crop. Again, the orchid, the vanilla is not really made from this. It can be made, but there's other vanilla orchids that are recognized as the source of vanilla that you're familiar with as far as the flavoring goes. And they're trying to reintroduce that into Florida as a regular crop. So I was able to attend. It was sold out, pulled some strings, got inside. I was able to attend a vanilla orchid symposium where I learned a lot about vanilla orchids. And there's lots of different species. There's even vanilla species that are native to Florida and parts of the United States. But there are, again, 2 recognized vanilla orchid species, and that is vanilla, I almost forgot, planifolia, memory again, vanilla planifolia and vanilla tahitensis. And so those are the 2 recognized vanilla species that will make vanilla that is approved to be called vanilla. So I actually have, and what I want to share with you, and this is where the memory comes back, I want to share with you some of my vanilla planifolia plants and how I grow them. But it's the same type of thing, is that I had 1 plant of vanilla planifolia, and then it grew up, and then I was able to cut it and make more plants. And what I want to do is show you those plants and how they're growing, and explain how all of this is related to memory. Okay, so let me get behind the camera and we'll take a look at some more plants. Okay, so let's start right here, and these are a couple of plants of vanilla planifolia. They're in bark, in pots. They can grow in the ground, and I'll show you some of that in just a second. But what happens, for example, on the plant on the left here, if you get a little closer to it and you see what's going on, that has a couple of vines that are coming out of it. And so the vine on the right, I could cut that off and put it in another pot. And both of these plants came from the same initial plant. So this is growing here, and what happens if you take a look at this other one, this is growing, and it's attached to my shed, and it's growing up. And if we take a look at it, it is growing, I think it's right here, coming up from behind that dendrobium seedling, and then it's growing up to this point right here. All right. The other thing right next to it is yet another vanilla orchid, vanilla planifolia, and it's doing this. It's growing, and it's also, I got to come around and get a little bit of a better angle at it. So it's also in this pot back here, and it's growing up the side of my shed, and it stops right there. Okay, so these things grow, and what happens with this vanilla and this type of vanilla is that they grow up. This is a much smaller leaved species than the first one that I showed you, and these don't get that tall. And what happens on these things, and commercially what happens is they grow up about 6 feet. They're in a bush or some type of support, and then they're turned over and they grow back down, touch the ground, put out some more roots, and then they grow back up. And another 6 feet, turn back around, touch the ground again, and that's how you commercially grow vanilla. So the thing about this, and why does it go up 6 feet? Well, vanilla has to be hand pollinated. And so 6 feet is a nice height because most people can reach up to the height of the plant and then successfully do the pollination. Okay, so what does all this have to do with memory? Well, the other day I got a surprise. So I went over and took a look. I was taking a look through my garden, and at the base of my bougainvillea tree right here, look what I have. I've got a vanilla planifolia growing. So it's right in the ground there, and then it's growing up. And I think, and this is where memory is, and it was a surprise to me because I kind of remember planting it there, but not really well. So I think what I had was a piece of a vanilla vine. I had a stem that it was almost dead, I think, and I just shoved it in the ground at the base of, this is my bougainvillea tree right here. And I checked, and it's attaching, and it's doing really well. So I suspect that what's going to happen is it's going to grow up on this. Look at the nice bark on this tree. It's going to grow up on this tree and attach. And this bougainvillea has done well, and I assume the vanilla planifolia, this plant, is also going to do well. I'll keep you updated. Right now it's tiny, but I kind of remember putting it there, but not really. I don't remember really well putting it. All right, so with memory, what does it have? So I usually, with all of my orchids, I keep lists of all of the orchids that I have, who I got them from, when I got them, and I also have a list of dead orchids. Yes, I do have some orchids that don't make it, and so I keep a list of all the ones successful growth and non-successful growth. And you have to keep these lists. Now what I don't have, and I'll show you this, so these are my seedlings. Seedlings are growing right there, and I've shown you this in the past. This is Wulang. Where'd you go? Wulang progeny that's doing well right there. And I got to show you this Wulang because I'm talking about it. So you go up in this tree, in this right here, and there is, maybe you can't see it very well. So there's another Wulang flower right there on that spike. Right next to it, to that spike, is another spike. There's another one. I got to get it focused in on a closer leaf. So there's another spike right there. Going up, there is, there's another spike. Oh, you can't see that. Another spike right, anyway, lots of this Wulang is doing well. But all my seedlings, I don't keep records of that because I kind of have so many of them. And so I don't keep records of all my seedlings. More of my seedlings, for example, there's more seedlings there, and there's more seedlings right here. So as you can see, I've got a lot of seedlings, and I can't keep records of each one because they turn over so quickly. I either give them away or occasionally sell them, or they die, but I do keep records of all of my other, and not even extensive records, just kind of a running list of all the different orchids that I have. So if you take a look, and I've showed you this in the past, along my fence, there's all my orchids, more orchids down there through that end of the fence, more along the edge of the fence. And then as you go around, then I have my orchid pergola. So I have records on all of these guys right here. But what I don't have records on my seedlings. So I like keeping lists of everything that I have. All right, so what does all this have to do with vanilla? Well, it's just a reminder to me that I didn't remember planting that plant, and I still have a vague memory of that. There's no association of vanilla with memory. I wish there was, otherwise, and I'd be growing, and I love vanilla. I'd be eating more of it. But it's just kind of a reminder to me that it's good to have notes and records on things. And then it was a nice surprise to find that vanilla, because I hadn't seen it, and I usually don't get surprises in my garden. I know in my area, I know when things are about to bloom, but this was a surprise. I forgot that I had planted that. Okay, so sorry, it's a little circuitous route to get to that story there. So that's all I have for today. I hope that you enjoyed my video. If you did and you want to keep on seeing them, it would help me out if you can click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, again, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.